So what does extra virgin olive oil, like what does that really mean?
Well, so the definition of extra virgin, and part of it is also virgin, but it's oil derived solely from the olive fruit, extracted through a mechanical process. It has an organoleptic analysis score of higher 6.5 or higher. Extra virgin, as I was saying, is the organoleptic analysis, which is basically the aroma and the taste, is done. This is done by actual humans who are qualified olive oil tasters, and I happen to be one. Then there's a whole process that we'll go through, but you're smelling and you're tasting olive oil in a particular method at a particular time of day, and you are writing down the notes and detecting if there's any defects and what all the positive attributes to that olive oil are, and then grading it, and that is compiled because there's always more than one taster grading an olive oil. There's usually 8 to 12, and then the panel leader who takes all the marks up and comes out with the final score. Then there's the chemical analysis, which is the olive oil is taken to a lab, and at the lab it's oleic acidity is measured, and it has to be less than 0.8% of oleic acid per 100 gram. That level used to be at 1%, but I think it was 10 years ago where they lowered it to 0.8 because the quality olive oil is still evolving quickly, and because of more advanced technology and know-how, olives being harvested at the right time and extracted using the right methods, and even everything from transportation to the mill has lowered the oleic acidity level to much lower than 0.8. Really, they could lower that probably to 0.5 as sort of the marker. So oleic acidity is what they measure at the lab. So you have the organoleptic analysis and the oleic acidity, which are the two technical factors that are what they measure to grade the oil as extra virgin and virgin. So virgin basically goes through the exact same process, everything from growing of the fruit to harvesting to extracting, except that the oleic acidity is higher. So it's going to be 0.8 up to 2% is the bracket where virgin sits. Our family's olive oil's virgin is actually right on the mark of 0.8, and sometimes even a slightly lower at 0.7. It could be classified as an extra virgin, but our standards are high that we keep it as our virgin olive oil. In the organoleptic analysis, the score will be lower, so it'll be a 5.5. So those are the technical differences between virgin and extra virgin, and basically how that difference comes about is that most of what we're doing in our virgin olive oil production is fruit that is more matured, or it just doesn't reach our standard of extra virgin. So in terms of the flavor, you'll actually get a softer, sweeter, more subtle tasting olive oil, and that's typically virgin, the spice factor, the polyphenol content is going to be lower, so you're not tasting that big peppery spice, but you still taste it. It needs to still be there present, and some palates are obviously going to be more sensitive to that. Extra virgin, virgin, those are the only two grades in the olive oil world that are suitable for human consumption. That's basically what it means. Those two grades have been completely unadulterated in any form. They've been extracted using only mechanical process, no heat or chemical, and it has these high levels of polyphenols and low acidity level, which are healthy for the human body, and of course are extremely flavorful and will take any dish and enhance it and amplify the flavors so that you're taste buds will be happy and satisfied.
So, but for extra virgin, like versus virgin, do you put it on the same things or do you use it in the same way, like for dishes? And what would be good, like virgin dishes versus extra virgin? How do you use it?
So virgin olive oil really works well when you're cooking with olive oil, mainly because its flavor profile is soft, subtle, sweet, so it doesn't impart with much flavor for those who don't want their eggs tasting green, for instance, or if they're baking a cake or frying fish, it's a more subtle taste. It is also a little more economical as well. Compared to real extra virgin olive oil, it's still expensive compared to fake olive oil, but there's many uses to it, as well as just using raw. And a lot of people that have grown up with olive oil, where it's been in their culture, and they, whether it's Portuguese or an Italian or Middle Eastern, they'll actually really like the flavor of the virgin olive oil because it's more reminiscent of what they grew up with. Extra virgin has changed drastically in the last 20 years, that the flavors that we're achieving now never existed in human history and olive oil history. So virgin, really good to cook with, or just using it raw. And extra virgin, I mean, you can do the same thing. You can cook with it as well, but it really just becomes more of a waste, and the flavor profile may not suit the dish that you're cooking.
What I'm wondering, like, why are you cooking or baking with virgin? Like, is it not as good, or is it like different antioxidants that it's just not, doesn't make sense, or like what?
Yeah, it's more of a waste to cook with extra virgin. Extra virgin has these health benefits and polyphenols and vitamins and enzymes and all these wonderful things that, of course, are damaged.
Those are lower in the virgin olive oil. By the way, I never see virgin olive oil like any. I think yours might be the only one. It's always only extra virgin, like on the shelf.
That's right.
And it's $6.99.
That's right. Well, the consumers have, I mean,
because that's come like the hot word now, right?
Yeah, ultimately they're just being duped by this term extra virgin, which
I never see virgin olive oils.
Nobody even knows what the definition is, and obviously that's why we're going through this. But yeah, virgin olive oil, I've never seen another one either. And I work in the industry, not here in Canada. I've never seen another virgin olive oil hit any store shelf. And it's just the human conditioning of like extra virgin and cold pressed. That's what people have been told to look for.
So like the companies feel like they have to label their olive oil either extra virgin or nothing.
That's right. Or you'll see, I haven't seen it recently, but there is other grades of olive oil, such as olive oil, which is an actual grade, as well as pure olive oil, lampante olive oil, pumice olive oil, and these are...
What is this? Like, don't feed this to the dog kind of stuff? Like what?
They're oils that have defects to them, and the oleic acidity is extremely high.
By defects, what do you mean?
There's several of them, but it could be musty, fusty, it could be rancid.
What's musty and fusty mean?
They're all descriptive words that they use in the defects when it comes to olive oil.
So like if you're at like a competition or something and you're grading olive oil, that's like one of the kind of words you'd say to judge it?
Yeah, winey, vinegary, like there's a multitude of them, but it could be there's certain defects that arise from certain conditions that weren't up to standard, and it could be because the olives sat around too long, or it could be because there's olive fly infestation, or that they were using a press and extracting the oil, this old method where it's the oil's passing through this fabric, which is part of the press system, and that taints the oil automatically, so it'll give it a certain defect, like it may smell like moldy wet towel. Or bicho di gatto, which is actually one. It's bicho di gatto is cat piss, and there's olive oil defects that are cap is. And this is why, I mean, the fake stuff goes through, like most fake olive oils, all of them are maybe some sort of percentage of olive oil in there. But if they are, then they're refined and they're deodorized and they're colored and they're flavored so that these defects don't really come through, because some of them can be pretty offensive even to the untrained palate. But yeah, so that's the negative.
Like, it's for this reason I see most people go in, like, that are into health and stuff, at least. Like, a lot of people go to coconut oil because it's kind of maybe a little harder to replicate, and like as far as like coloring it with food coloring and like making a fake version.
Yeah, well, for sure, being a saturated fat and it going from liquid to solid at 22 or 22, I don't know exactly the temperature of coconut oil where it turns liquid. So it's definitely harder to counterfeit a coconut oil, because people would certainly catch on. Also, most olive oil still rules. I mean, in terms of demand, more people are using olive oil than coconut oil, as far as I know. I mean, obviously there's India that probably uses a lot of coconut oil, but even there, they've gotten, the olive oil market has cracked there, and you know, people are using olive oil all over the world, where before it was just the certain Mediterranean basin, really, that's where olive oil was being produced, and all of a sudden the entire world now has olive oil in their kitchen and not knowing exactly what it is.
So what, cold press means nothing, is what you're saying?
No, it still does mean something, but there's any producer that's producing high quality olive oils that are reaching the new standards of extra virgin and virgin, they're using a cold extracted method, which is basically a centrifuge system to obtain extra virgin quality. So the press, you'll still see them in a museum, or there's still smaller family farms that's just what they have. Like back in the day, my town alone probably had over 30 olive mills, which is...
It's a small town.
It's a small town with lots of olive trees, but people didn't, transport olives to a mill. They just had a mill surrounded with olive trees, and when the time came, that was the mill that was used. So those frantoio, those mills, will still have the press. Some are in use, but there's no other press being used in even our town, I believe. I don't think there is, but there's...
Because the standard has been raised.
Yeah, and people are
yeah.
moving along with the quality. I mean, it's still a thing of the past, but people feel that, it's the traditional way and it's like the better way because it's the old-fashioned way of producing olive oil, but it's not true.
So like by today's standards, it would actually be like impossible to create extra virgin olive oil by today's standards with a press.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Mainly because of the timing, and with a press you have a lot of exposure to light and heat and air, because olives are put into a paste using this granite rock that just rotates around, and olives turn into a paste. It sits there for a bit. Once you finally get enough paste in there, they scoop up the paste, they layer it onto these mats, and then they put this mat into a press. Next, until they stack up the press full of these plates or mats, and then the hydraulic press, add pressure, dozens of tons of pressure, which pressure obviously equals friction, which equals heat, which means that you're not able to control the temperature of a press as well. So there's the time that the oil or the pulp of the olive and the oil that is exposed and the friction that's created in the press will create defects and lower the quality as it's being produced. So even before it's bottled, it's not even extra virgin quality. In most cases too, the people that are still using the old press more than likely might be picking olives that are too mature. You'll get higher yields, more oil content in a more mature fruit, but much lower quality. And that's a part of what makes extra virgin is harvesting at the right moment.
So like saying all that, what, like, you described extra virgin and virgin, but like what does that actually cost? Like if I'm going into a store and I'm like, today I want to buy some virgin olive oil, what would like the prices of virgin olive oil versus extra virgin be?
They'll be fairly similar. I mean, virgin, if you're looking at a certain brand or certain region, then the virgin olive oil will always be $4, $5, $6 cheaper at the most. So they're still fairly comparable. Like because it's that same process. There's still the exact same amount of labor involved. The same equipment, the same extraction method, the same centrifuge, the same filtering. It's all exactly the same, except the result at the end is different acidity levels. So it's still expensive. I mean, really, this should almost be the same price.
Because the only difference, it's the same extraction process, just the only difference is that 0.8. What is it? Oleic acidity?
Yeah. 0.8. So it's more the demand, I guess, too.
How much would that cost in a grocery store?
Well, you want to be looking at least, if it's Italian, but even any other European country or any other country in the world for that matter, because it's a commodity, then you're looking at $20, $23, $25, $28.
Right. And that's for virgin.
For virgin, yeah, 750 mil.
And then it would be like
between $20 and $30, really.
Like a few dollars more if it's extra virgin.
Yeah. And an extra virgin, you'll go up. I mean, you could start at, depending on the size of the bottle, of course, then could be a half a liter bottle for $24 up to, well, what you'll see in Canada, most olive oils will range between that $20 and $40 mark, but there are...
Because of like importing fees, there's a lot of stuff involved, right?
Yeah, I mean, the bulk of the cost of the product is the actual contents inside that bottle.
Right.
But of course, there's, the euro exchange. There's shipping across the ocean. There's the importer. There's a distributor, and if you're buying it retail, then there's the retailer who has their margins on top. So $20 to $40 is like that's well, that's below the average, because there's thousands of olive oils that are $40 to $50 to $60 that you will never see. Tuscan olive oil is not cheap, and most of them, I don't even think there's one on our market anymore. Very little here in Canada or Ontario, or even French olive oil. Production is so low, and it's France, of course. So there's $50, $60 bottle of olive oil if it's coming from France easily. But even if they're coming from, like, southern Italy, wages are cheaper and the bulk of the olive oil is produced there. So that's where you'll find more economical pricing for olive oil. Whereas northern Italy, southern Italy produces 80% of the olive oil. Northern Italy is scattered between, the southern up to the north. So Tuscany is like a drop in the bucket, basically. So they have to charge what they need to in order to make a living.